Viktor Kuznetsov was the most ruthless mafia boss in Moscow, the man who made the entire underworld tremble in fear. For 2 decades since the stormy night his father drew his last breath in his arms, Viktor had eliminated his enemies without ever drawing a blade, compelling even the most hardened criminals to submit in terror. They called him the Shadow Reaper because anyone who crossed him vanished into eternal oblivion, swallowed by the cold silence of the Russian night. Then, one fateful evening, amid howling winds, everything shattered. As Viktor entered his secluded study within the fortified dacha on the outskirts of the city, he heard an unfamiliar murmur from the hidden vault behind the ancient bookshelf. Secured by retinal scan accessible only to him, the vault guarded his darkest secrets. A soft, innocent gurgle echoed like that of an infant. Viktor drew his pistol heart, pounding with suspicion, approaching the door that stood eerily ajar. He braced for betrayal, a spy, a saboteur, even a rigged explosive. But as he pushed it open, he froze in disbelief. An infant. The little girl lay in the center of the room, her tiny fingers toying with a frayed edge of the ornate Persian carpet. Her dark curls shimmered under the dim lamp's glow, and when she lifted her gaze to meet his, there were no tears, no fear. Instead, she offered the warmest, most radiant smile, as if her soul recognized him from a lifetime of waiting. She toddled toward him, her small arms outstretched, drawing him into an embrace he never anticipated. In that profound moment, Viktor's ironclad world of brutality crumbled like fragile ice. The child appeared precisely when his empire teetered on the brink. A billion-ruble arms deal had collapsed in flames. A traitor lurked in the shadows of his inner circle, and the FSB tightened its noose around his operations. Was it mere coincidence, or had someone deliberately left the vault unlocked? And why, of all the souls in this vast, unforgiving world, did this baby choose to approach Moscow's deadliest kingpin, clutching his hand with unyielding trust, refusing to let go? If tales of redemption and unexpected love stir your soul, please like and share to spread this heartfelt warmth. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next stories that touch the deepest corners of the heart. Viktor remained rooted like a granite statue in the forbidden vault, untouched by any soul for 2 decades, except his own. His razor-sharp mind, which had orchestrated hundreds of life-and-death pacts in the cutthroat shadows, now blanked entirely, overwhelmed by the impossible. The pistol in his grip felt unnaturally heavy, utterly meaningless in this surreal encounter. He gazed down at the infant on the floor, grinning broadly with drool dampening her soft blue onesie, then glanced at his sleek matte black firearm, a stark contrast that mocked his very existence. A wry, self-deprecating chuckle escaped Viktor's throat, a sound so alien he barely recognized it as his own. It was absurd beyond comprehension, the Shadow Reaper, the terror of Moscow's underworld, arming himself against a helpless babe not yet a year old. Slowly he holstered the weapon, his eyes never leaving her innocent form. She showed no trace of fear, advancing toward him with determination, her tiny palms slapping against the priceless Persian rug imported from a high-stakes auction in Dubai. Viktor loomed tall and imposing in his tailored wool suit worth thousands, yet he felt utterly powerless before this fragile creature. Confusion gripped him like a vice reminiscent of that fateful night 2 decades ago when his father, Dmitry Kuznetsov, breathed his last in Viktor's arms and whispered, "Be unbreakable, Viktor. This realm is yours." But now, facing this child, all that forged strength dissolved into nothingness, leaving him vulnerable and adrift. The infant reached his boots, peering up with sparkling eyes like precious gems. She grasped his pant leg, tugging with surprising resolve. Viktor exhaled deeply, then did something unprecedented in his 42 years of hardened life. He knelt on the floor, his expensive suit brushing the rug without a care. He sat cross-legged like a child, facing her with a mixture of wonder and trepidation as she regarded him with pure, untainted curiosity. "Who are you, little one?" Victor murmured, his voice gravelly and laced with bewilderment. How did you breach this sanctuary? The baby offered no answer, of course, only a joyful babble, as she smiled, turning her attention to the rug. Her tiny fingers discovered a loose thread and pulled with gleeful persistence until a long strip tore free from the ancient weave. He should have been furious, summoning security to uncover the lapse that allowed this intrusion. Instead, he sat transfixed, watching her with a stirring emotion he couldn't name. The child snapped the thread triumphantly, her face beaming with pride, as she held it out to Victor, cooing, "Ah, ah," as if presenting a priceless treasure. "You've damaged my heirloom worth $50,000. Victor noted his tone devoid of anger, almost amused. "Do you realize that—" She giggled, oblivious drool cascading down her chin. "You don't know." Victor sighed, a soft resignation in his words. "Of course you don't." He reached for the thread, but she yanked it back, hugging her trophy close. Then, without warning, she crawled into his lap, settling there, as if it were her rightful place. Victor stiffened, unsure where to place his hands, his world tilting on its axis. The baby wiggled contentedly, reaching up to clasp his index finger with surprising strength, her small joints squeezing tight. He tried to withdraw, but she gripped harder, emitting a protesting whimper that tugged at his heartstrings. All right. Victor surrendered, his voice softening with unexpected tenderness. "I'm not going anywhere." He sat there, allowing her to hold on, feeling the gentle warmth of her body seep into his cold soul. How long had it been since he touched a living being without intent to harm? How long since he felt such absolute, unwavering trust from another soul? Then the odor hit him, a foul, overpowering stench that assaulted his senses like a brutal strike. Victor grimaced, struggling not to inhale deeply as the baby grinned innocently, unaware of the biological catastrophe in her diaper. What sorcery is this? He choked out, his voice laced with horrified amusement. What have you done? She laughed harder, as if proud of her unwitting achievement. Victor, who had faced the coldest assassins and stepped over lifeless bodies without flinching, now found himself utterly helpless before a soiled diaper. He lifted her at arm's length, keeping her away from his body, yet she clung to his finger with unyielding determination. I've ended 47 lives, Victor muttered, staring at her with total bewilderment. I've forged an empire from the ashes of nothing. I instill fear in all of Moscow, but this... He glanced at the diaper, its deadly aroma wafting unchecked. This I don't know how to confront. The baby tilted her head as if attempting to comprehend his turmoil, then erupted in laughter once more innocent, radiant, untouched by the shadows of fear. And Victor realized for the first time in years he was lost, adrift without a map for what came next. The vault door burst open with a thunderous crash. Victor whirled, his killer instincts igniting like wildfire, his hand instinctively grasping the pistol's grip. But the intruder was no enemy or assassin. It was a young woman, her face ashen with raw terror. She stormed in like a tempest, her brown hair messily tied at the nape strands escaping and clinging to her sweat-dampened forehead. Her faded gray cleaning uniform was wrinkled as if she'd sprinted through the entire dacha to reach this hidden sanctum. Anya, ah! She cried the name ripping from her throat like a desperate plea. Her green eyes swept the room frantically until they locked on the baby in Victor's arms. Then realization dawned, and she froze, as if doused in icy water, her already pale face draining to ghostly white. Victor saw her tremble, her entire body quaking like a leaf in a Siberian gale. Her lips parted, but no words emerged. He recognized that look. He'd witnessed it countless times on the faces of those teetering on the precipice of life and death. It was pure, visceral terror, the kind that drove people to their knees in supplication. Yet this woman did not kneel. She stood defiant, her back straight, chin lifted slightly even as her legs shook violently, knees threatening to buckle. She swallowed hard, drew a shuddering breath, and met his gaze, head on. Those green eyes brimmed with fear but flickered with a resilient flame, weak yet unextinguishable. Victor was genuinely startled. For years he'd grown accustomed to people crumbling at his feet, pleading, weeping, begging for mercy. But this slender woman in a threadbare uniform refused to yield. "You know who I am?" Victor stated, not questioning but affirming. "Yes," she replied, her voice quivering but resolute enough to pierce the tension. "Mr. Kuznetsov." "Then why aren't you kneeling?" Silence enveloped them. In Victor's arms the baby squirmed, reaching toward the woman with soft "Mama" coos. The woman's gaze softened for a heartbeat, then hardened as she faced Victor again. "I only kneel before God," she declared, her trembling voice carrying each word with clarity. "Not before anyone else, no matter who they are." Victor stared, then a strange sound escaped him, a quiet, brief laugh, like wind whispering through cracks. He couldn't recall the last time he'd laughed, perhaps before his father's death, nearly 2 decades ago. The unfamiliarity startled him. "Intriguing," he murmured. "What's your name?" "Elena Ivanova." "Is this child yours?" "Yes, Anya Maria Ivanova. She's 8 months old." Elena said rapidly, her voice cracking with anguish. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. She got in here I don't know how. I left her in the stroller for just a moment to mop the hallway. I didn't see the guard leave the security door ajar. By the time I turned, Anya had spotted it and crawled inside, drawn by the quiet. I searched everywhere. You brought your baby to work." Victor interrupted, his tone neutral. Elena hesitated, knowing it was a grave breach. Staff were forbidden from bringing family, especially children, into this fortress. "My sitter fell ill," she whispered. "I have no one else. I couldn't miss work because I need the money. I'm sorry, I know it's wrong. Please don't fire me. I'll do anything. How long have you worked here?" 4 months, sir." Victor nodded, his gaze dropping to Anya, who still clutched his finger tightly amid the foul diaper odor. "She needs changing," he noted. Elena snapped to action, stepping forward. Yes. Let me, Anya, come to Mommy." But as her hands touched the child, Anya wailed piercingly, clinging to Victor's jacket as if torn from salvation. Tears streamed down her face, her cries escalating. Elena froze, staring in disbelief at her daughter, the baby who only slept in her arms, who screamed at strangers, now desperately holding on to the underworld's most feared lord as if he were her greatest protector. "Anya," Elena whispered, voice breaking. "Baby, come to Mommy. Mommy's here." But Anya's sobs intensified her grip on Victor, unyielding. Victor glanced down at the child, then at the mother, her desperation etched in every line. He saw tears welling in her green eyes, her slender shoulders, quaking exhaustion, and resolve warring on her fragile face. In a decision that baffled even him, he said, "Leave her here. Go back to work." Elena's eyes widened in shock. But sir, Don't repeat yourself," Victor cut in. "She'll stay until you're done, and you owe me an explanation for how she entered this room. But later. Now go." Elena lingered a moment, gazing at her daughter, safe in the arms of a mafia boss, then at Victor. Something in his eyes, not threat, not cruelty, but a fragile glint like light piercing darkness, made her comply. "Yes, sir," she whispered, turning away, her heart thundering. She didn't know what she'd stepped into, whether leaving Anya was right or wrong. But in Victor's deep, black eyes, she saw not death, but profound loneliness. The next day, Victor sat in his main office, where light from tall windows cascaded onto the deep crimson carpet. Sleep had evaded him the night before. Images of the baby gripping his finger and the young woman with unyielding green eyes haunted him like an inescapable melody. He needed to know who she was, why the child had chosen him, amid hundreds of rooms, and why it mattered so deeply. Ivan entered at 9 sharp, black briefcase in hand. He'd been Victor's right hand for 15 years, the only man trusted implicitly in a world of treachery. With a bear-like build and a scarred face, Ivan appeared a merciless killer, but beneath lay sharp intellect and unwavering loyalty. "I've got what you need, boss. Ivan said, opening the case to reveal a thick dossier. "Tell me," Victor commanded flatly. Ivan began, voice steady as a routine report. Elena Ivanova, 27, maiden name Elena Petrova. Born in Siberia to a middle-class family, father, a pastor, mother, an elementary teacher. Bright student scholarship to Moscow State University education major. "Then why scrub floors?" Victor asked. "Because of Alexei Ivanov," Ivan replied, flipping to a photo of a blond young man with a charming smile. She met him at 22 junior year. Alexei, son of a wealthy Moscow family. They fell in love. She dropped out to marry him. Her family disowned her. The strict pastor father declared her dead to him. The Ivanovs rejected her as a gold digger, cutting Alexei off. They scraped by on his retail job. Then Alexei sank into gambling, or so records say. Victor's brow furrowed. "That's the official line," Ivan continued, voice lowering. "But I dug deeper. Alexei wasn't a gambler. He owed $500,000 to the Petrov crew, not from bets." "Petrov?" Victor echoed, eyes darkening, the rival outfit gnawing at his territory for years. "Why, haven't uncovered that yet," Ivan admitted. "But 14 months ago, Alexei died in a car accident, plunged into the Moskva River at 2 a.m. Police called it drunk driving." Ivan paused. "But boss, he was allergic to alcohol. Medical files confirm it." Victor grasped it instantly, murder, disguised as mishap. "When Alexei died, Elena was 7 months pregnant." Ivan went on, tone heavier. "The Ivanovs denied the baby, blamed her for his death. Called her a curse. Her family remained silent. Not a call. She gave birth alone in a public hospital in the outskirts. No one by her side." Victor sat silent, a storm brewing within. Ivan flipped to the final page. After birth, she worked 3 jobs, morning waitress, afternoon cleaner, here night cashier at a supermarket. Lives in a rundown apartment in the Moscow suburbs, paying weekly rent, no deposit affordability. Silence blanketed the room. Victor stared into void, unmoving. Ivan had seen him face death and betrayal unflinchingly, but this was the first prolonged silence after a report. Then the office door creaked open. Elena entered, pushing a stroller with Anya asleep inside. Victor had ordered that morning she could bring the baby to work, and daily she'd bring the child to his office for an hour. Security check, he'd claimed. But both knew it was pretext. Elena lifted Anya, placing her in the crib Victor had overnighted, a handcrafted oak piece costing $3,000. Then she left quietly, her green eyes watchful, holding something unreadable. As the door closed, Victor rose, approaching the crib. Anya slept deeply, cheeks flushed, lips parted, clutching a frayed stuffed animal. He watched something twisting in his chest. "Your mother is stronger than most men I know, little one," he whispered roughly. "Facing everything alone, no aid, no care, and still she stands unbowed, refusing to kneel." Anya stirred in sleep, her mouth moving dreamily. Victor brushed her hand with his finger, and instinctively she grasped it tightly, even in slumber. Ivan watched from behind, silent. He'd followed Victor 15 years, seen him kill remorselessly, build an empire from blood and tears. But this was the first time he'd seen his boss's eyes soften so profoundly at a living soul. 2 weeks passed like a bewildering dream Victor couldn't or wouldn't awaken from. Daily at 10 sharp, he'd summon HR to bring Elena and Anya to his office for security checks. Officially, that was the rationale he gave everyone, including himself. But deep down, he craved the sight of that baby, the feel of her tiny hand around his finger, the sound of her pure laughter echoing through his once cold office. Olga Victor's secretary of 7 years, a 35-year-old with cropped black hair and piercing eyes that missed nothing, was the first to notice the shift. Accustomed to processing odd invoices from million-dollar artworks to rare vintages, she raised brows at this week's bills: a Swedish organic high chair for $2,000, an Austrian handcrafted miniature oak piano for $3,500, a dozen German organic plush toys at $800 each, a temperature-regulating crib with lullabies for $5,000 and more. Olga stared at the invoices, then the closed office door where childish giggles drifted. She asked nothing, daring not processing payments, silently wondering how Moscow's most ruthless had been enchanted by an 8-month-old. Inside, Victor sat on the floor back against a $10,000 leather chair unused for weeks. Anya faced him, gnawing a pale brown teddy bear's ear. On his desk lay files on the botched arms, deal red ink bleeding, and leak reports. "I've got a problem, little one," Victor confided seriously, as if to a trusted advisor. "The deal was sabotaged. Someone leaked to Petrov. I don't know the traitor." Anya met his gaze, widely cooing, "Goo-goo." "Who do you suspect?" Victor asked gravely. "Goo-goo," she replied, flinging arms, the bear flying. Victor nodded. "I suspect him too. Sergei Volkov, that bastard, always reeks of guilt." Anya laughed uproariously, as if concurring. "You're wise, little one," Victor said, mouth curving slightly. That was the scene Elena witnessed, door ajar, as she approached for Anya's bottle. She saw Moscow's deadliest kingpin on the floor, consulting her daughter, like a partner, smiling, not coldly, not contemptuously, but softly humanizing his angular face. Elena stood heart-racing, unable to fathom this transformation. Was this Viktor Kuznetsov, the Shadow Reaper, the man rumored to kill without hesitation, building an empire on enemies' blood and tears? Why did he gaze at her daughter so tenderly, smiling as if it were the most natural act? She retreated quietly, deciding to return later. In the office, Victor lifted Anya, walking to the vast window overlooking Moscow, the city sprawled below spires, gleaming in afternoon sun traffic like distant ants. This was his domain, forged through a lifetime of protection and conquest. But now he thought not of empires, deals, traitors, or FSB. Only the warm weight in his arms, milk and powder scent in her silken hair, her head on his shoulder, in complete trust. "Do you see that little one?" Victor whispered roughly. "That's my world, a realm of blood and shadows. I've dwelt in it 42 years, thought I'd perish there." Anya turned eyes clear as crystal springs. "But then you appeared," he continued softly, confessing unspoken secrets. "You toddled into my vault, seized my finger, refused release. You're unafraid, ignorant of my darkness. You see me as ordinary, not monstrous." Anya touched his cheek gently, warm and soft. Victor closed his eyes, savoring it. How long since tenderness touched him, since he felt human, not a machine of death. "You're reshaping me, little one," he murmured, eyes opening. "I don't know if it's salvation or ruin. I only know I crave it unending." Anya laughed like chiming bells, hugging his neck face buried in his shoulder. And Victor, Moscow's ruthless overlord, who'd slain 47 without remorse, stood holding an 8-month-old, gazing over his city, feeling something long dead stir in his chest, hope. The staff break room lurked in the dacha's basement, a cramped space with scarred plastic tables, a noisy refrigerator flickering fluorescence. It was the sole haven where ordinary workers breathed freely, escaping the oppressive upper floor's menace. Elena sat alone in a corner, hands clasping cold coffee thoughts, replaying Victor holding Anya by the window the previous afternoon. Heavy footsteps approached. A robust woman stormed in, plopping opposite. Maria Petrova, 48, Siberian-born, was the longest-serving cleaner, her tight black curls, bunned high brown eyes. Razor-sharp mouth, faster than her steps. Maria feared nothing, not burly guards, not mafia shadows haunting the halls. Bronx-hardened, she'd forgotten fear's taste. For 2 weeks, she'd watched Elena with maternal concern. Maria began sternly low. "We need to talk." Elena lifted weary green eyes. "What is it, Maria?" "About the boss," Maria said bluntly. "I've seen how he looks at baby Anya. Seen how you look at him." Elena stiffened. "I don't know what you mean." "Don't fool me, Mila." Maria sighed, grasping Elena's hand, rough from labor yet warm. "I've worked here 8 years, seen pretty young girls come and go. Some vanish silently, some float in the Moskva. Men like Viktor Kuznetsov don't change, Mila. They pretend. But he's different." Elena started, then halted. "Different. He's the Shadow Reaper. He kills without blinking. Builds empires on blood. That difference is a trap. Get out while you can." Elena shook her head. He's kind to Anya. He smiles with her. Maria's eyes softened with pity. That's the danger. He uses kindness as bait. I've seen it. Protect yourself and that baby Mila. Don't let him pull you into the darkness. Elena nodded, but doubt lingered. She recalled Victor's softened eyes, his gentle hold on Anya. Was it pretense or something real breaking through his armored soul? The conversation haunted her, a seed of uncertainty planted deep. As weeks unfolded, Victor's transformation deepened, a quiet revolution sparked by Anya's innocent presence. He began restructuring his empire, shifting from shadows to legitimacy, investing in luxury hotels along the Moskva, upscale restaurants in Arbat real estate in the Golden Ring. Plan A, he called it, inspired by Anya's babbling during a meeting, her tiny hand pointing at the first proposal on his desk. His lieutenants exchanged puzzled glances, but none dared question. The FSB, sensing the shift, eased their pursuit files, gathering dust, as Victor's clean ventures flourished. Yet the Petrov crew rivals, gnawing at his flanks, plotted in the underbelly, sensing weakness in his softening. One evening, as Victor cradled Anya in his office, reading a children's book in halting Russian, her laughter filling the room like sunlight, Elena entered her shift ending. She watched, heart swelling with conflicted emotion. "Thank you for watching her," she said softly. Victor looked up, eyes meeting hers with intensity. "It's no burden. She's changing me, Elena." She hesitated, Maria's warnings echoing. "Be careful, Mr. Kuznetsov. For her sake." He nodded, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. "Call me Victor." That night, a betrayal surfaced. Ivan uncovered leaks to Petrov Sergei Volkov. A trusted aide had sold secrets for a fat payout. Victor confronted him in a desolate warehouse on Moscow's fringes, knife-in-hand rage boiling. "You betrayed me," he growled. Sergei begged, "Please, Victor, my family." But as the blade rose, Victor saw Anya's face in his mind, her trust, her laughter. He lowered it. "Exile. Leave Russia. If you return death." Mercy born from a baby's grip. Elena learned of it days later, confronting Victor. "You spared him for Anya," he admitted. "And for you. I can't be the monster anymore." Tears welled in her eyes. "You're not a monster, Victor." Their first kiss followed, tentative yet profound, in the vault where it all began, Anya cooing approval from her crib. Months blurred into love's tapestry. Elena and Anya moved to a cozy dacha cottage on Victor's estate, Elena managing a thriving restaurant chain under his Plan A. Maria became nanny, her warnings turning to blessings. Anya took her first steps toward Victor, calling Papa, with joyous clarity, tears streaming down his face. Victor proposed under a blooming cherry tree ring, nearly swallowed by Anya's curiosity, eliciting laughter amid tears. Their wedding was intimate, Maria as maid of honor, Ivan best man, Anya hurling flowers chaotically. Vows exchanged in a garden bathed in sunset, sealing their family. 2 years on, Victor adopted Anya as Anya Maria Kuznetsova, his hand shaking as he signed. Elena graduated business administration, beaming on stage as Victor and Anya cheered. He sold his shadow empire to Ivan, standing in his old study, whispering to his father's photo, "I'm happy, father, truly happy." 2.5 years after Anya's fateful crawl, her preschool orientation dawned crisp in Moscow's elite academy. Victor, in casual sweater and sneakers, chosen by Anya, stood among parents feeling belonging beyond shadows. As they posed on stage, Anya's "Papa Mama" rang out, filling hearts. In the garden afterward, Victor reflected, "She changed everything." Elena smiled. "You chose to change." Maria and Ivan watched Maria, whispering, "The little one tamed the Shadow Reaper." As sunset gilded the city, the Kuznetsov family walked hand in hand, Anya, singing a lullaby, their voices blending in harmony, the sweetest music Victor had ever known. The tale of Victor Kuznetsov, Moscow's ruthless mafia lord, and Elena, the resilient single mother, concludes here, but its echoes endure. No one is born a monster, nor doomed to eternal darkness. Love transforms even stone hearts. Miracles spring from the smallest sources, like an 8-month-old toddling into a vault grasping a killer's finger. Forgiveness is humanity's greatest strength. Family by blood or fate heals wounds and forges our best selves. Thank you for journeying to these final lines. If it moved you, subscribe, like, and share so others feel this warmth. How did it resonate? Remind you of life changes. Has someone transformed you? Like Anya did, Victor comment below, we cherish your hearts. Wishing health, joy, and peace. Believe light awaits in the darkest times. Farewell until next.